In this video we are going to study acids, bases and salts. So in previous classes we have learned that sour bitter tastes of food is due to acids and bases respectively, which are present in them. If someone in a family suffering from a problem with acidity after overeating, which of the following would be your suggestion as a remedy? Lemon juice, vinegar, baking soda, or solutions? So, in this video, by reading this, we will learn like what would be the better remedy in case of acidity. So you already know from the previous classes that acids are sour in taste and change the color of blue litmus to red, whereas the bases are bitter and change the color of red litmus to blue. So acids changing from blue to red, litmus color blue to red, and bases are changing from uh, red to blue. So what is a litmus? Litmus is a natural indicator. Like turmeric is another such indicator, which is a natural. Have you noticed that a stain of a curry on the white cloth becomes reddish brown when soap, which is a basic in nature, is scrubbed on it? So why this happening? We gonna study in this chapter. What is a litmus solution? A litmus solution is a purple dye and which is extracted from the lichens. Lichen are unicellular, comes under Bryophyta, a plant belonging to the division of Thallophyta. Sorry, it comes under Thallophyta, and is commonly used as an indicator. When a litmus solution is neither acidic nor basic, its color is purple. And materials like red carbase leaves, turmeric, colored petals of some flower such as hydrangea and petunia, which indicates the presence of acid and bases in the solution, and these are called acid base indicator, or sometimes called simply indicators, because these simply lichens and these things, like leaves of turmeric, uh, these are indicator because when they are being in contact with either acid and base, they react with them and shows it a different color, their color changes. So acid and base can be like known, and their acid, how much is the potential in them, can be indicated by these indicators. So these are called acid base indicators, and simply we call it indicators. So understanding the chemical properties of acid base, let's understand their chemical properties. We have discussed what are acid and base and how we can indicate something as acid or something is base by the help of indicators. Now learn about the chemical properties. Acid and base in laboratory. There are some substance whose odor changes in acid and base media. These are called olfactory indicators. So there are also other indicators other than the color indicator. These are olfactory indicators which changes the odor. Odor is a smell. Let's learn about how the acids and bases reacts with metals. Here is some diagram which shows like when the zinc granules are diluted with the dilute sulfuric acid, some gas emerged, and when this gas is passes through the soap solution, it forms a bubble, and when we lit the bubbles, like it blast is it sounds pop. So So this indicates the hydrogen gas. So hydrogen gas is forming in it. So this means this when this chemical reaction is happening, a hydrogen gas is forming. So generally what happens with when the acids reacts with metals. So when acid reacts with metal, it forms salt and hydrogen gas. Here is some example. This is a metal and this is NaOH. Actually it's a base, and it forms salt and hydrogen gas. So basically not all the metals reaction with however, no, such reactions are not possible in all metals. Not all metals react with this way. And generally, like acids, when reacts with metal, forms salt and hydrogen gas. How do the metal carbonate and the metal hydrocarbonate reacts with acid? Now this is a formula for metal carbonate. Metals M, carbonate is CO3, and metal hydrocarbonate. There is hydrogen comes in it, and it forms hydrocarbonate. Limestone, chalk, and marble are a different form of calcium carbonate. What is happening in this case? Metal carbonate and metal hydrocarbonate, when reacting with the acid, it is again forming salt and carbon dioxide and water. So in even in case of metal carbonate and metal hydrocarbonate, uh, the reaction is still forming salt, carbon dioxide, and water. The reaction between the acid and base to give a salt and water is known as a neutralization reaction. So when the both acid and base are reacted together, they form salt and water, and they actually neutralize each other effects, and this is why they are called these reactions are called neutralization reactions. So this is important for the exam perspective view. Acid and base makes salt and water. So now the reaction with the metallic oxide with acids. A metallic oxide with the metal with the oxide reacts with the acid, it again forms the salt and water. So that means this acid, uh, when we just study the acid when reacts with the salt, it forms when acid reacts with the base, it forms salt and water. Same salt or water formation is there. By this we can conclude that metal oxide has a like properties of basic properties. So metal oxide act as a base, and non-metallic oxide acts as acid. Since the metallic oxide react with acid to give a salt and water, similar to the reactions of a base with an acid, so metallic oxide is said to be a basic oxides. So they have a basic, like basic character. And non-metallic oxide, what happens in the non-metallic oxide? It again forms this. You saw the reaction between the calcium dioxide and the calcium hydroxide, lime water, in the activity 2.5. The calcium hydroxide, which is a base, reacts with the calcium dioxide to produce a salt and water. And this reaction is similar to the reaction between the base and acids. So we can conclude that the non-metallic oxides are acidic in nature. So like see, by this thing we can conclude that if some equation is forming salt plus water, if any of them is acid, so there must be a base, whether it is actual base or it is like some metallic oxide or non-metallic oxide, metallic oxide. And when we are like adding something reacting something with a base, and it again gives a salt and water. That means it must have an the unknown thing must have acidic in nature. So that is why the non-metallic oxide acts as acid, and the metallic oxide acts as a base. So all the acid generates hydrogen gas on reacting with metals. So hydrogen comes seems to be the common in all the acids. So acids generate hydrogen. Glowing a bulb indicates that there is a flow of electric current through the solution, and electric current is carried through the acidic solution by ions. Acid contains H plus ions as a cation, and anions such as Cl minus and in HCl. And since the cation present in the acid is H plus, this suggests that the acids produces hydrogen ions H plus in the solution, which is responsible for the acidic properties. So the if electric current is conducting in a solution, so it is because of the current is carried out by the ions. And this also shows that acid contains H1 H plus ion. So acids have hydrogen atom, and H ions, and on the other hand bases has OH. What happens to an acid or a base in a water solution? HCl, which is acid because it contains H plus ions, and NOH is a base because it contains OH ions. So when the acid reacts with water, what happens? It is forming this H3O plus and Cl3, and when the hydrogen ions reacts with oxygen, it forms this. We have seen that acid will give to H3O plus and a hydrogen ion in the water, and when the base which contain OH ion reacts with the hydrogen, it forms the sodium ion and OH ion. So the base generates hydrogen oxides. This shows something which is a basic, which has a basic nature. Bases, they generates OH ions in the water, and something which is acidic in nature, they generate hydrogen ions. So by this we can conclude that acids are those which contain H plus ions, and bases are those which contain OH ions. So all the bases do not dissolve in water, and an alkali is a base that dissolves in water. So as we discussed, acids contain H plus ions and base contain OH plus ions. By this, after conducting multiple reactions, and why the acid and base forms salt and water? Because acid contain H and base contain OH. When they react with each other, the H and OH forms the H2O, 2H and 1O forms H2O, and this acid and base, the main metals comes together and they form salt. Here the H plus ion and OH minus ions form the hydrogen, which is a liquid. That is why the acid and base reactions forms salt and water. The process of dissolving an acid or a base in a water is a highly exothermic. So it gives a heat, lot of heat, and this is highly exothermic. An acid must always be added slowly to the water with a constant stirring. So must care must be taken while we are adding acids uh, in water. We should slowly add it, and if the water is added in a concentrated acid, heat generated may cause a mixture of, may cause the mixture to splash out and causes burn. So there, the splash is created and it can cause a burn. So we should never add water to a concentrated acid. However, we can add acid to a water, but very slowly, because the reaction is highly exothermic. So that is why we will not it if it is like after constant stirring, if drop wise acid is released, the much heat will not be released. So now learn about how strong are the acid and base solutions are. How do we know how strong is acid and how weak is acid? And same thing in case of bases. The universal indicator shows the different colors as a different concentration of a hydrogen ion in the solution. So in the starting of the chapter, we discussed about some indicators like a litmus and turmeric and lichens. Lichens, litmus is formed from the lichens. They show different colors, on the basis of the different concentration of the hydrogen ion. So there is a measuring scale of hydrogen ion, which and it is called pH scales. And pH means potential of a hydrogen and power of the hydrogen. So what is this? If more the hydrogen atom some solution contain, more acidic it will be, and more the OH item OH minus a solution have, more the basic it is. So like there are two solutions, suppose there are two solutions, three solutions, it contains lot of hydrogen ions and hardly one or two OH ions. So concentration of the hydrogen ion is more, and more will be acidic. And in a solution where there is a equal ratio of OH ion and H plus ion, they are called neutral, because both the acidic and basic character are neutralized by them. And some solution which have very few concentration of H plus ion and a lot of OH minus is there. So these solutions are called basic. More the concentration of OH ion in comparison to hydrogen ion will be there, more the basic will be there. So the concentration of the hydrogen ion if increases, pH also get reduced, and uh, more the OH iron increases, the more will be the basic character. Here are some example, like pure water has a pH of 7. That means it contains same amount of OH and H plus ions. Lemon juice has about a 2. Gastric juice which is in our stomach has 1.2 acidity, and milk of magnesia has 10, and sodium hydroxide solution NaOH has about, is a highly basic. The strength of acid and base depends on the number of ions and OH ions produced respectively. So we just discussed this. An acid that gives rise to more H plus ions are said to be the more acidic, and the acid which will give less H plus ion will be the less acidic. So this concludes that, and when the lemon juice and gastric juice are compared, the gastric juice will produce more H plus ion in comparison to the uh, H plus ion produced by the lemon juice. And in similar case, when we compare the milk of magnesia and the sodium hydroxide, this sodium hydroxide will produce more OH ions in comparison to the OH ion produced by the milk of magnesia. Now let's talk about the importance of pH in our daily life. And our body works within a pH range of 7.0 to 7.8. It is slightly tilted towards the basic. Living organism can survive only this narrow range of the pH scale. When the pH of the rainwater is less than 5.6, this is called acidic rain. This is important for the exam perspective. pH when reduced, pH of a rain when comes down below 5.6, this is called acidic rain. And plants require a specific pH range for their healthy growth. So all the living organisms have some very narrow range of pH in which they survive. pH in our digestive system. Our stomach produces hydrochloric acid, which is called gastric acid that we just described earlier. And during ingestion, the stomach produces too much acid, and this causes pain and irritation. To get rid of this pain, the people uses bases called antacid. When there are too much acid production in the stomach, and this can be neutralized by the base, because the base are the things which neutralizes the acids and by forming salt and water, and these are called antacid because it neutralizes this. Antacids neutralizes the excess acid, like magnesium hydroxide, milk of magnesia is a mild base, is often used for this purpose. So we got the answer for the thing that we are discussing in the starting of the chapter. When some family member got acidity, what you will suggest? You will suggest some antacid, which is a mild base, so that the excess acid produced in their stomach may be neutralized by some bases. Now talks about the role of pH in our tooth. So tooth decay starts when the pH of our mouth is below 5.5. Where the tooth decay starts, the tooth enamel made up of calcium hydroxyapatite, a crystalline form of calcium phosphate. It is the hardest substance in our body, and it does not dissolve in water but corroded when the pH of the mouth is below 5.5. Why the pH of the mouth reaches below the 5.5? Because the bacteria present in the mouth produces acids by degradation of the sugar and food particles remaining in the mouth after eating. So the bacteria will eat the remaining food particles that remains after we eat something, which are mostly sugar and other food particles. And after eating this, bacteria defecates and produces acidic things, and these are the acidic which are the main cause of reducing the pH of the mouth. And when pH of the mouth is below 5.5, the enamel of our teeth will decay, and which is a tooth decay. Using a toothpaste which is generally a basic, so our toothpaste must be basic. Why? The acidic environment of our mouth can be neutralized by a basic toothpaste, and for cleaning the teeth can neutralize the excess acid and prevents tooth decay. Self-defense by animal and plants through the chemical warfare. Have you ever been stung by the honeybee? Honey stings leaves an acid which causes pain and irritation. So whatever ants and honey, when bites and stings us, they irritates, the pain causes. Why? Because they leaves acid, and use of mild base like a baking soda on the stung area gets relief, because then acidic character can be neutralized. Sting hair of nistel leaves injects methanol acid, causing a burning thing. So there is also plant. This is nettle leaves, which is mostly found in Himalayan areas, which we Hindi we call it bichu ghas. Leaves of these contain stings, and these stings have this methanoic acid, formic acid, and when we touch them, this acid goes into our skin, and this causes irritation and pain, and it can be relieved by some using some baking soda, which is a basic in nature. So this is a natural plant, is a herbaceous plant which grow in the wild, and sting here contain the methanoic acid, and traditional remedy is rubbing the area with a leaf that is a dog plant, which is often grow besides the nettle in the wild. So this dog plant can give a relief. That means this have some basic characters. This table shows the sources. Like vinegar contains acetic acid, which is a formula of CH3COH. It is a ethanoic acid, acetic acid. When a solution which contains uh, like about 3 to 5% of acetic acid, this is called vinegar. Orange has a citric acid, turmeric has tartic acid, and tomato has a oxalic acid. And sour curd, sour milk or curd has a lactic acid, and lemon has a citric acid. Ant sting has a methanoic acid, and these, both ant sting and bee sting and nettle sting has a methanoic acid, a formic acid. Salts are the strong acids, and the strong base are neutralized with the pH value of 7. So salts of strong acid and strong base are are neutral with a pH scale of 7. This is because a strong acid contains more H plus ion and strong base contain more OH ion. And strong acid, when strong bases reacts, they neutralize each other. That means they will form hydrogen, oxygen molecule, water molecules. H plus OH will form water molecule, and they neutralizes. However, on the other hand, the salt with a strong acid and weak base are acidic with a pH value of less. If there are, strong acid is there, weak base is there, only, only the that contains a few OH negative, and it contains large number of OH, H plus ion. Suppose it contain 10 H plus ion, and this is why it is a strong acid, and a weak base contains, suppose, a 5 OH minus. So this is a weak base. So only the 5 H plus ion can be neutralized by the 5 OH ions. So still there will be a extra 5 H plus ion, and this will make the whole solution acidic in nature. And similar case happens if we consider things opposite. Those of a strong base and a weak acid are the basic in nature and with a pH value of 7. This happens similar in case of when the uh, base is strong and acid is not strong. And this is some history here, and chemicals in the chemicals from common salt. A salt formed by the combination of the hydrochloric acid HCl and the sodium hydroxide NaOH is called a sodium chloride. And because the OH and H will make water, and Na plus Cl will combine, and that will form a salt, NaCl. And this is used in food. The common salt is called kitchen salt, which is NaCl, sodium chloride. Seawater contains many salts dissolved in it, and the sodium chloride is separated from these salts. These large crystals are often brown due to impurities. So we have some, we know it something called namak, which is a pure salt. We have another namak which is called senda namak, which is like some brownish, color. Why? Because of impurities in it. Lots of other minerals are there. It is not a pure NaCl. It contains other atoms also, other molecules also. So this is also called rock salt. Hindi we call it senda namak. And the bedrock of salt are formed when the sea of bygone ages dried up. So suppose there is a sea and there will be the salt in it. When the sea dry up, only the salt remains, because salt has high melting point. It will not evaporate soon. So rock salt and the rock salt are mined like a coal. And you must have learned in the history classes that Gandhiji's Dandi March. Did you know about the sodium chloride was such an important symbol in our freedom struggle? So during the freedom struggle, Gandhiji did this Dandi March to break a salt law, and they started the Sabarmati Ashram. They did in the Sabarmati Ashram. Common salts, raw material for chemicals, for chemicals, such as sodium hydroxide, baking soda, and washing soda, bleaching soda, are many more. These are called as common salts. Let's discuss about the sodium hydroxide, NaOH. An aqueous solution of a sodium chloride. This is aqueous solution of a sodium chloride called brine. It decomposes to form a sodium hydrochloride. When the sodium chloride reacts with water, it forms sodium hydrochloride, and calcium and hydrogen separates from it, because it is like a decomposition reaction, displacement reaction actually. Yeah, it displaces this. Bleaching powder is another common salt. Bleaching powder is produced by the action of chlorine on dry shelved lime. Bleaching powder represented by CaOCl2. When the calcium hydroxide reacts with chlorine, it forms the bleaching powder, calcium hydrochloride. Calcium hypochlorite plus water. Bleaching powder has a multiple use. It is used as oxidizing agents and in making the drinking water clean, because it kills the germs. How it kills the germs? Because it breaks the cell wall, which is mostly it breaks the cell wall of the bacteria, and the bacteria dies, and this is why it makes the water germ free, like disease free. It now the sodium baking soda, which is an NaSCO3. The baking soda is commonly used in the kitchen for making a tasty crispy pakoras, etc. And sometimes it is added for faster cooking. And it has a chemical name of this sodium hydrogen carbonate. It is a sodium, hydrogen, and carbonate groups, hydrogen and sodium. So when NaCl, sodium chlorides react with water and carbon dioxide and ammonia, it forms the ammonium chloride and the sodium hydrogen carbonate. This is called baking soda, sodium hydrocarbonate. And when the sodium hydrocarbonate is again heated, it again converts into the sodium carbonate. Baking soda is used making the baking powder, which is a mixture of the baking soda and a mild edible acid such as tartaric acid. And sodium hydrocarbonate is also an ingredient in a anti-acid, so it has a basic nature, and it is ingredient in the anti-acid, so it neutralizes the acid excess acid. Being a alkaline, it neutralizes the excess acid in the stomach and prevents relief. So sodium hydrocarbonate may also be taken in case of acidity. A baking soda, and it is also used as a soda acid. Soda acid fire extinguisher. Extinguisher. Washing soda. Washing soda has this formula: Na2 sodium carbonate 10 hydrogen. Uh, so it can be obtained from the sodium chloride, this washing soda, and it has a formula of this: when the sodium carbonates react with the 10H2, it forms the washing soda. Washing soda is used in uses glass and soaps and paper industries, and it is used in the manufacturing of sodium compounds such as borax, and sodium carbonate can be used as a cleaning agent in a domestic purposes, and it is also used in removing the permanent hardness of the water. And last thing is plaster of Paris. Chemical formula of hydrated copper sulfate is this: uh, plaster of Paris, on heating the gypsum as at this 373 Kelvin, it loses the water molecules and becomes the calcium sulfate hemihydrate. So why it is hemihydrate? And this is called plaster of Paris, because two molecules of the calcium sulfate shares the one hydrogen atom, one water atom. So this is shown as a half hydrogen like water molecule. And plaster of Paris is a white powder, and on mixing with the water it changes the gypsum once again giving the hard solid masses. When the plaster of Paris is again reacts with water, it forms the gypsum. How can there be the half molecule? We have already discussed this, because this molecule shares uh, like two molecules of calcium sulfide shares one molecules of water. This is why we have written is half. And this calcium sulfate hemihydrate is called plaster of Paris. And here we have completed this chapter. Let's quickly revise it. Acid and acid base indicators are dyes or a mixture of dyes which are used to indicate the presence of acid and bases. Acid nature of the sulfate is due to the formation acid nature of a substance is due to the formation of H plus ions in aqueous solution, and when the OH ion is formed, this is because of the basic nature of the substance. When the acid reacts with the metal, hydrogen gas is evolved, and a corresponding salt is formed. And when the base reacts with the metal, along with the evolution of hydrogen gas, a salt is formed, which is a negative ions composed of a metal and oxygen. When the acid reacts with a metal carbonate and metal hydrocarbonate, it gives the corresponding salt and carbon dioxide and water. So these are the reactions of acid and base with the different metals and non-metals and metal carbonate and metal hydrocarbonate. And acid and base solutions in water conduct electricity because they produce hydrogen and hydrogen oxide ions respectively, and they conduct electricity in water also. And pure water is non-conductor of the electricity. Pure water cannot conduct electricity. Only water, if contains acidic and basic character, conduct electricity. So we have a range, we have a scale in which we ranges the power of had H plus ion and OH negative ion. This is called pH scale, and we range from 0 to 14. And neutral solution has a 7 pH exactly, and acidic has less than 7 pH, and basic have more than 7. Living beings carry out their metabolic activity within the optimal pH range, and mixing concentrated acid or bases with the water is a highly exothermic reaction. It produces a lot of heat, so care must be taken. Acid and bases neutralizes each other to form a corresponding salt and water. So acid and base when reacts, it neutralizes each other and forms salt and water. Water is crystallized. Water of crystallization is a fixed number of molecules represents in formula of unit of salt. And salt have a various use in everyday life and industrial life, in industrial use also. Here ends this chapter.